Student Award winner. So Mason Murphy, will you please come forward? All right, so Mason is an incredible young man in 7th grade at Nelson Middle School. He is smart, funny kid. He's thoughtful and very helpful. Mason has a huge heart and is always willing to help his friends, students in his class, and teachers. Mason is admired by his peers because of his kind and gentle heart. Also, he is an honor roll student and manages to maintain his incredible grades while participating in marching band and many other extracurricular activities. So congratulations, Mason. You are September's Student One Nelson Award winner. All right, so we're going to smile at this nice lady and then we're going to send her a note. All right? You ready? You sure? Okay, you may do it better. No, that's not possible. Okay, thank you. Hold on, let me give you your mug, too.
Great necktie.
Yes, that's fantastic necktie. Yes, that's awesome. Good job. All right, honey. All right, next up, we have several members of our community that we would like to recognize. So I will call you all up at once, but then I'll read kind of individually. So will Ms. Janet Wade, Tony Donegan, Matt Shaner, and Lena Greenwood please come up. So, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make this complicated. All right, so Janet, Ms. Janet Wade, Ms. Tony Donegan, Mr. Matt Shaner, and Ms. Lena. No, you don't have to switch. This is fine. We're good. I just want to make sure everybody knows who's who. All four of these individuals were very willing and generous of their time, particularly as we got close to the open house. So all four of these individuals, along with each other, volunteered at the Nelson Middle School during open house night to assist in registering students and also welcoming them back to the start of the school year. And thank you to all of these, because that, as any of you who've attended these, there's a lot of things going on and there's a lot of need for extra help and hands. In addition to, these are the faces that a lot of our families and our students are the first to see as they come in, whether they're 6th graders coming to the school for the first time, 8th graders for the last time, and then our 7th grade, which is unique in and of itself. And so these individuals and retirees of Nelson are willing to come back and give their time and give back to our school, so we appreciate it so much. And we also had Ms. Lena Greenwood, who was a part of that group, but also Lena Greenwood deserves the recognition of the One Nelson Award. She goes above and beyond for not only the individual schools, but for the district as a whole, and she is involved in a variety of activities like marching band, theater, PT Eagles, and Lena donates a lot of her time and funds in the efforts to NCPS. Most recently, she volunteered to MNS during open house, as we mentioned, along with these four individuals. So we would like to say thank you so much to you all for spending that time and giving it back and kind of really continuing to live that One Nelson, that life. So I'm going to give you these, and then we're all going to stand and we're going to smile and probably get out of the way of, here you go, and here you go. And let's move over here. So we're out of the way of the podium. There we go. Act like we like it more. All right, good. All right, guys, thank you so much. All right, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Huh? Yes, months. I'll hand deliver these large to you, so don't you
I knew that was
Okay, now we have it.
It's easy for these things.
You just like jump.
Thank you.
Picture.
All right. Our third category that we want to recognize is for our support staff recipient. And I'm not sure she was able to make it this evening, but I still want to go through and read and talk about why she was being acknowledged. Our next recipient is Sylvania Campbell, who's a support staff through transportation and also as an instructional aid assistant. She's an outstanding person all around. She's been with Nelson for many years and brightens everyone's day with her smile. Her positive energy is contagious and spreads to those around her. In addition to her instructional assistant responsibilities, she also transports students to and from school. She's willing to do whatever is necessary for her students, school, and division, and does so with a smile. So we want to say thank you to Ms. Campbell, and congratulations for being our September Support Staff One Nelson winner. And last but not least is our certified staff, Ms. Summer White. And I don't think, oh, yes, come on up, yes. Sitting right in front of me, and I'm like, I can't see you. Come on up. Ms. Summer White is new to us this year. Here, I'm gonna come on over here so we don't have that. So Ms. White has been a positive support for myself and my student for the start of this school year. My student is new to the high school, but also fresh at getting back to in-person school. She has helped with ways to positively support my student, and her priority is to make my student feel welcome and cared for, as well as all of our other students. She has even set up a small group for new students so that they can feel a sense of connection and community at NCHS. So thank you so much. I know that meant a lot to this parent and any parent coming back to us, but just coming into a school for the first time. And what a mark and an impression that you're making immediately coming and joining our family here. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. We're going to get this picture taken.
He's in work for some reason.
Not focus. I have a tendency to do that to cameras. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Don't forget your coffee. Your morning coffee at work from. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. All right. Thank you so much. And that is all of our recipients. Thank you.
Okay, next we have comments from board members. Mr. Perkins.
Thanks everyone for being here. We appreciate all the hard work that's gone out at the beginning of the school year. We're in the thick of it. We're 4 weeks in now. So it's moving quickly. And appreciate seeing like fall sports are going well. Everything looks. Football team came up big last week, so that was exciting. And appreciate all of y'all.
So thank you. I didn't get to attend the last meeting, so welcome back to school. I didn't get the opportunity to share that message. It sounds like it was a good start to the school year. We appreciate everything everyone's doing. I always appreciate the One Nelson Awards. I think the continued commitment to doing that is really great. And when you see so many of our retirees coming back to be acknowledged, I know Shannon and probably Crystal work their magic on ensuring that they probably still work full time in the schools in some way, shape, or form. I do want to call out our ag mechanics team with the FFA is on their way to Massachusetts to participate for the first time in a national competition, and that's huge for that group. So do definitely want to give them a shout out. It sounds like the fall sports are going well, whether it's golf, whether it's football, volleyball. It sounds like they've all had a good start to the season. Cross country running now too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also First Responders Day. I think we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the significance of yesterday and the importance of it. Excuse me. Yes.
Attorney Jones?
Yeah, so ditto to what has already been said. The only thing I will add is I've had an opportunity to be out in the community quite a bit and have talked to some of the students, and just a great start to the school year. And that is attributed to you, the principals, the administrators, and all of our teachers and support staff. I've heard it from many people, not just the students, but the parents, and that means a lot. So thank you. I know it takes a lot to pull off, just to get everybody back in and to start the school year, but a really good start. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
And I am just gonna not have a comment today.
Want to start by thanking all of our One Nelson Award winners, whether it's Ms. Campbell, with staff, retirees, or young Mr. Murphy. I think it's outstanding that we're able to recognize people within the community and within the system for the great work that they do. With people that have retired from the system, and they could go and sit on the porch and not do anything, but they choose to come back and help, and that's fantastic. As Ms. Powell said, it's First Responders Day, and yesterday was Patriot Day, and we should never forget what happened. So, just remembering all the people that gave their lives in service of the country, and the innocent people that lost their lives on that day. All Important dates. Okay. All right, September 17th is Constitution Day. We have VSBA Legislative Conference on the 19th of September. The 23rd of September is a student asynchronous day and instructional planning for our teachers. September 24th is family night for Nelson County Public Schools. Dinner at 5:30 and speaker at 6. Regular school board meeting is on October the 10th next month. The end of the first grading period is October the 11th. That is unbelievable. So we're almost halfway through that first grading period already. That is hard to believe. It flies by. October the 14th is an instructional planning green day. October the 18th is report cards are sent home. 21st is a PD, professional development day. And the 21st of October is family teacher conferences, parent teacher conferences, as we used to call them. Oops, I did something wrong. Okay. And that is it. All right.
And you requested a meeting with a joint.
I did. I did. I have sent a formal request to the Board of Supervisors, excuse me, as you all know, for a joint meeting, hopefully by the end of October, with the purpose of discussing pre-planning for budget season, as it were, and also hopefully we can discuss some longer-term planning, longer-term needs for the school system and goals, and get a feel for the Board of Supervisors of what their long-term planning looks like relative to that, because we certainly have a lot of operational and capital improvement needs. And in the meantime, between now and then, we're hoping to just, casually do some 1-by-1 and 2-by-2 meetings with individual board members, and then hopefully after. And I would like for us to be able to set a meeting schedule at that meeting, so maybe we can meet again, say, in January, as we begin budget season, that kind of thing. And I've heard back from the chair of the Board of Supervisors. He said he would confer with his board and they would work on dates and he would get back to me. All right. Okay. Now, next item on the agenda. I'm sorry.
I just mark them off as you do
Gotcha.
them.
All right.
Sorry
Is
to have
comments from a superintendent? Dr. Hatter?
I'll just go ahead and start here because that's where I'll end up, so that'll work out. So obviously, the past week has been difficult, particularly in terms of grappling with school shootings and school safety. And so obviously no one imagines this happening in their own community, and we are saddened by those events and for that community, the communities that were impacted. We continue to work hard to provide safety measures for our students and staff. The middle school has fully implemented the open gate weapons detection since August 27th, and the high school began it fully implementing it last week. Our elementary schools will be doing so in the next few weeks, making sure that we're doing that slow rollout to ensure that the planning is there. Sometimes I know at the high school level, we're working through figuring out what exactly is setting it off, and what sets it off one day may not be the same the next day, which is fine because it continues to practice that extra security that will be helpful. And I always encourage, if you see something, say something. At the end of the day, our people are the best and first line of defense. Unfortunately, the world that we live in, these extra responsibilities have kind of been placed on all of our school staff, but that's what's necessary in order to make sure that everybody is safe. And it truly takes everyone. So I just want to, we recognize the things that are going on in other communities, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep ours safe. On a different note, switching gears on that, all activities are in full swing, as Mr. Perkins has noted, and it's great to be able to see, we see our kids in the classrooms and in our hallways, but then we get to see them do some things that they're very passionate about outside of the classroom, which is always great. Friday is the first home varsity football game, and with that comes Nelson tailgate season. So if you're interested in participating in that, please reach out to the boosters and indicate that you would like to do so. And our students and fans always make us proud. I don't know if you saw this, but We had some technical difficulties at a recent volleyball game, and we were having trouble playing the national anthem. And without missing a beat, our student section, our fans, and our players were able to pick up the slack and able to join in and sing the national anthem, and it even made some local news. So we're pretty proud of that. Just the pride and the initiative in taking, and not waiting around for something to get fixed. They'll take care of it, and they'll show their pride. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate the parent for capturing that and sharing it with everyone. Elementary schools have had their back-to-school dances and back-to-school activities. A lot of enthusiasm with the parents and the students coming back and immediately getting engaged with fun activities. Constitution Day, as was shared, is coming up, and this is a great way to not only just learn a little bit more about the Constitution, but also celebrate it. It's something that we really try to promote in all of our schools. And Asynchronous Day is coming up on Monday, September 23rd, which is the day after the first day of fall, which is coming soon. We're all excited about that. When we meet again, it will be the fall, and it will be Kindness Month, so we'll be doing a lot of different activities to celebrate kindness and also just exemplify the importance of being kind. October 4th is homecoming, so just putting that on everybody's radar. So that's Spirit Week also. Not everybody's able to make our meetings, and so I've began distributing the One Nelson newsletter, which just kind of gives a short recap of some things that have taken place in the division from school board meeting to school board meeting. So most recent, on September 16th, we distributed the One Nelson newsletter for the beginning part of school up until that first school board. So Monday, we'll be distributing another one. So I send it out to all of our staff, but I also post it on our website so the community can read it. And again, just highlights of some things taking place at our schools or in our division. Also highlights our One Nelson winners, so more people are able to see who is receiving that award. And it's just a great way to get our accomplishments out there that we're proud of. And I also want to reiterate, last year was the first year that we had the 911 kind of learning day, and it was held on September 11th. So it also celebrated Patriot Day, but it also about learning about what 911 is, the appropriate time to use it, as well as other safety measures. So I really want to thank Nelson Emergency Services for beginning to develop that concept, and also I want to thank our elementary principals and all the staff at the elementary level that were a part of that, as well as law enforcement, emergency services, and everybody who was a part of that. It's an exciting day. I admittedly, I want to snitch on myself. I got a phone call from a school board member who's like, what is going on at Rockfish? There's emergency vehicles and the whole world is descending upon them, and the kids are outside. In a brief moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. No one's told me. And then I hung up the phone and I thought, oh my word, I know exactly what it is. What is going on? So I had to call back and say it's first responders emergency 911 day. So that's, there's so much going on. Brief moment, my mind, after what's been happening, my mind switched directly over. Oh my gosh, what's happening? So been involved in that because it brings our community together, touches on a really important topic, and it creates those relationships with our small kids. And one, that could be a career pathway for some of those kids, but it builds that trust level and creating a bigger network of trusted adults that can help them if need be. So I just want to share those comments. And with that launches me. Would you like to announce the next part? Sorry, I just recognized there's an agenda.
Yes, pathways to success.
Yes. So just continuing with some of the things that are taking place. Administration, we've all heard reference to the ESSER fund. So we had ESSER 1 and all its little competitive grants, and ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. That time is coming to a conclusion, September 30. Those funds are coming to an end, and we'll have to learn how to live life without that from here on out. So working to finalize a lot of collaborative efforts to understand, like, what do we want to use our funds in the best possible way to support our students, and we're pretty happy with what we're able to use those funds for and to support all of our students. Also working on the annual school report, follow-up to the activity fund audits with the schools, working with our nutrition office to set up a new accounting system that will be more effective, completing open enrollment for our staff, also collaborating with BRMC to get those flu and COVID vaccinations scheduled. I don't know about you, but we've got a lot of the creeping crud going on, and it started at the first day of school, and a lot of people are getting sick. So, being able to ensure our staff we appreciate the partnership with Blue Ridge Medical Center for providing those vaccinations for our students at the beginning of the school year, and then also continuing to support us with our staff. So we thank them for that. And also working on replenishing supplies of albuterol and also EpiPens and pads and IEDs for our students and our staff at our schools. Instruction, I'm sorry, I didn't have that. If you'd like to look at those pictures, I got all excited and I started right into it. My fault. For instruction, a lot of things are taking place. You'll see a theme among instruction, HR, and pupil personnel in terms of professional development. We've established growth, not only for students, but for adults as a goal of ours. We have a lot of, we have the Virginia Literacy Act taking place and a lot of the collaboration that takes place to get the implementation of the law, but also the details of that. And so that's taken place, meeting with the Virginia Literacy Partnership, which is working to support that for grades 3 through 8. Pre-K class, capital CLASS, observations that are required, and make sure that we are running our classrooms the way that they need to be and according to those guidelines and criteria. That's taken a lot. Continuous needs assessment. So next school board meeting, we'll be sharing, our principals will be sharing a summary of their school improvement plans and the success of that, but also what are their plans for the future year. So we'll be doing that. So we've got to work on that to close out last year. Also, the National Institute of Excellence in Teaching, we were able to competitively win an opportunity to participate in this, and it's very exciting. Great way to provide some coaching for our school building leaders, our division leaders, but also then to get to our teachers about the best practices in seeing student achievement. We're also continuing with science and math professional growth opportunities, where we're bringing in some consultants who've been working with us for I think a year and a half, and they do a great job. Family Night is coming up September 24th, and the focus will be cybersecurity. So we're pretty excited about continuing with those family nights. We also have Title I and Title III meetings, working with our reading specialists and our coaches and continuing to provide that support, and also supporting our gifted learners and really learning why rural matters in gifted education, and how does that look different, and how do we be able to support our kids in that manner. Human resources and communications. Last month, we talked about creating the behavioral support position, and so now we're beginning to interview for those slots, as well as the assistant principal position at the high school. We successfully rolled out the teacher evaluation system to our principals, so they could be working with our teachers, setting those SMART goals, getting everything organized for the school year. Hired special education instructional assistants for the middle school in Rockfish. Also provided different various trainings that will need to come up. For instance, cultural competency. Every 2 years, we're required to have our staff be trained in cultural competence. And also processed the Title II grant for tuition reimbursements. Pupil personnel, the first special education advisory committee, making sure that we get stakeholder involvement and feedback in the operations that we have, particularly with our SPED students. That was held this past Tuesday on the 10th. It was a great start to the school year, using creative and flexible thinking to meet the needs of all of our learners. Working with JMU and TTAC through the IPOP team, being able to meet for student performance data and developing plans accordingly. We also have continued training for safety care, the Woodcock-Johnson educational testing for new SPED teachers, and then autism training through VCU for our instructional assistants. So not just focusing on our teachers, but all of our staff members that are working directly with our students. For technology, we've been working with our switches for the last couple of years, but the extreme switch access points updating. We've talked about the delivery and the acquisition of RICO copiers. They have been distributed to the schools and getting set up. Chromebook updates. We're on a rotation to get more Chromebooks for our 9th and our 5th graders. So we've been able to distribute for our 9th graders. We're working on some carts for our 5th grade Chromebooks to make sure they charge and they have a safe place to be stored throughout the day. So that is coming soon. And repair engine demo, status of repairs, being able to evaluate that for our Acer Chromebooks, and that's necessary so we can monitor. And Promethean boards, our teachers keep requesting the use of our Promethean boards, so we keep getting them and trying to distribute them and deliver them. And then also our teachers getting their new laptops that are more powerful and able to give them the necessary tools so they can support the students. Maintenance, again, continues to be super busy. We have some issues with the hot water valve over at the new hot water heater, so we're working to, currently using a manual operation for that, but we're working on getting that fixed. Maintenance is installing a new camera at the football field to live stream. We I kind of checked up with Mr. Mullins. We have opportunities in the gym to be able to do that, and then using Huddle. So we're trying to continue to give, if you can't make it to the game, let's try to give those opportunities to be able to view those experiences outside and inside for all of our students, because that's important. We've done Mr. Cargill and his team has done a great job of setting that opportunity up for our theater and drama and band and choir, and so it's just extending those opportunities to view what our students are doing. They were also able to repair the leak found in the through the tropical storm. So what caused us to delay the start of the school year? Tropical Storm Debbie. It produced a great deal of rainfall and pounding rain that found its way into our buildings, and it kind of exposes some weak areas, and we had some areas at Rockfish that we needed to make sure that we go through and was it we grouted it or just sealed it up. So we were able to do that and get up there and take care of that, so we don't have to worry. Also scheduling many of the inspections that take place, and also working with Honeywell to finish up the Phase 1 renovations that Mr. Campbell will provide a little bit more information on. Transportation, really, this week was doing the bus safety for both of our elementary schools for pre-K through first grade, running through and teaching our students sitting on the buses and things not to do and things to do. And it's always really, really super exciting to have our kids participate in that. Mr. Ashley is also part of our safety and security team in working with our administrators to implement the open gate weapons detectors as well. And food nutrition services was selected on August 9th for the team nutrition readiness and retention development opportunity, which will allow us to receive funds also for hands-on skill development. A part of another thing that we were selected for was the Virginia Food and Virginia Kids cohort. So we were one of 7 schools and nutrition programs throughout Virginia to work towards increasing scratch cooking. We've talked about this a little bit, increasing scratch cooking, local food procurement, and also working with our students to inspire meal offerings. So congratulations to Ms. Cannell and her team for bringing that to us. As always, I like to share the data for the meals that we've served for breakfast. Up until now from the summer student breakfast meals, 8,800, so 8,803 meals for breakfast. For lunches, 15,211, and for the CACFP after school meals is 251. So a lot of meals being served to our students. And last but not least, I always like to celebrate a lot of the community engagement events that we have going on. We talked about the Special Education Advisory Committee. Both elementary schools held dances in the last couple weeks in order to make sure and encourage that participation and bringing our families into us to show that it can be fun, and our environments are supportive of their students. I talked about the recent, the second picture on the bottom from the left is the screenshot of the Facebook page of the singing of the anthem. I couldn't quite get the link to work to be able to play that, to listen to them singing, so I encourage you to go to our Facebook pages to look at that. Also, the picture on the bottom left is of one of the posts from Lovingston Volunteer Fire Department and their involvement in our first responders 911 Education Day. We have Future Gov's basketball camp coming up. We have Girls on the Run information from Rockfish that's been sent out. A football tailgate party coming up. We had a Green and Gold Day on August 30th just to kind of celebrate our pride in our schools and the completion of that first August month of school. And we also have family night coming up. But I think it's also really important that we acknowledge that congratulations to all 4 of our NCPS schools for being fully accredited. Zabitsky will provide more information on that. And the one, Pathways to Success.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any comments, questions?
No, my second favorite part of it is
Right.
yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is comments from the public. Do you have anybody? No. Okay, no one wishing to speak. All right. Next item is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the registers for August 2024, and the meeting minutes, second reading, July 11th, 2024, regular school board meeting. Excuse me, I will need a motion to approve the consent agenda as a whole.
Go ahead.
I make the motion we approve the consent agenda as a whole.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Now we're down to items for information. The first one is first reading meeting minutes for the regular school board meeting, August 15, 2024, last meeting. And then next, we have the capital improvement plan update with Mr. West Campbell.
Short tonight since a lot of phase one renovations, we're wrapping that part up, so. The HVAC units, the larger chillers and all are still expected to arrive November, December. The 4 gym rooftop units that we have to install at the high school, have scheduled those. They're going to start on October 14th, Green Day, so cranes, we don't have to worry about students around the cranes setting the units on and off. The hot water tank, we had a little issue with that. It's a 3-way valve that introduces hot water to maintain hot water in the building. Honeywell was able to, it was bad from the get-go. So Honeywell was able to purchase it under warranty. So I have here that it's supposed to arrive on this week, but it was installed Tuesday. So everything's up and running like it should there. The Rockfish RTU2 unit, I've scheduled with Honeywell to install the disconnected compressor the 23rd of this month during the AC day. Hopefully with that, we can get along a little further with that one unit. I've included the budget price, the 2024 budget pricing that I presented last month. That way everybody can see where we're at on that.
That's the 4 compressor unit, is that right?
That actually is 6 compressors. It's got 3 on each circuit. And then the Rockfish elevator, we're talking about this a little bit past couple months. Some good news there is TK Elevator and their engineers have developed a solution to our problem. So they're coming out on the 18th to install a new system, a counter to go in the system where we can avoid the monthly, for them coming every month and resetting it. So fingers crossed that works. So I will hopefully have some good news to update next month when that happens. So that's all I have. If you guys have any questions.
I appreciate everything you've been doing to keep things moving.
Keep things running, even if you're just squeaking life out of something that should normally
That's what
be
we're doing
dead.
now. Yeah.
The Rockfish elevator, that'll solve the counting problem, but it still lacks support, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's still
That
gets
antiquated.
it through right now. but-
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Just like the compressor and RTU2, that gets us through for now. But we're going to have to seriously look at upgrading that equipment there. So
Is there an air conditioning in the Rockfish gym?
it is not.
Okay,
We
not-
have budget pricing. Did Honeywell give us the budget pricing for that? I don't have it.
10
with me.
years ago or more.
Yeah, I know we just talked about it.
We priced it out for both
Yeah.
Thai River, because neither Thai River nor Rockfish have
Rockfish.
it, and that was
Right.
something that we have tried to work with them to price it out.
Just curious.
I would say that with the Rockfish, that might be something to look at on a bigger scale. But Thai River, I think that's both of them. It gets warm in there.
Yeah, right, this time of year.
It really
And
is.
they're both slated for emergency shelter still.
So Rockfish used to be, Thai River wasn't. Rockfish used to be, it's my understanding that they stopped that a couple years ago. So that is not actually an emergency shelter anymore either, so.
Cool. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item is the 2025 state accreditation and academic outcomes with Dr. Ryan Yard-Spencer.
Good evening. Should be supplied with 2 documents. One is the report, and I will note that it does say final report. That's not my designation. This is still preliminary, but this is the output from SSWS and the DOE website. It is not final just yet. Full disclosure, our results are pretty final. don't see any changes coming down the pipe for us. And then you should have just a brief synopsis and summary of the PowerPoint that I will go through. This is the 5th year, I think. I've delivered this in September, so this is good. All right. Accreditation outcomes, just as a reminder. Performance indicators are leveled. Level 1 is our goal, level 2, level 3. Level 2 means it's coming close to the level 1 threshold but misses it by 5 or 10%, or it's still not to the level 2 threshold, but we've showed a significant reduction from level 3, and that significant reduction is reduced by 10% or greater. There are for academic indicators, for academic indicators, the performance level is calculated through current year results or a 3-year average. And you will see that in the detailed report that I directed you to earlier. And that will default to whatever is higher. Included in this graph are all of the academic indicators. And I would note that a combined pass rate is used for math and reading SOL outcomes. And the combined pass rate is defined as both overall SOL passes, recovery, meaning if a student failed the SOL test the year prior but passed it the current year, EL, English Language Learner growth, and SOL growth. And that is defined currently from a spring SOL administration to a spring SOL administration. If a student still doesn't quite reach that 400, if they improve with a certain threshold, they would be considered into the combined pass rate as meeting growth. So, in no particular order other than the output in your detailed reports, which starts at the high school. And I will compare 2023 results with our current year results because this is consistent with a lot of language and conversation coming out of Richmond. They want to see how we're doing coming out of the COVID epidemic. And I will also refer to some pre-COVID metrics as well because there's been a lot of comparison, performance before COVID and post-COVID. So, Nelson County High School will be fully accredited for the 24-25 school year. Last year, NHS was at level 1 for all indicators except for chronic absenteeism, which was at a level 3. This year, NCHS is at a level 1 in all indicators, including being at a level 1 across all gap groups in both English and math. The highlights would be 24-25 accreditation outcomes in English and math surpass pre-COVID outcomes by an increase of 8.25%. And these results are consistent from 23-24 outcomes, so quite high. Science outcomes at 72.7%, though exceeding the state benchmark, are not quite back to pre-COVID outcomes, and they're down about 8%. Chronic absenteeism this year was calculated at 20.76, which is an improvement of over 7% from last year. This result is, like I said, enough to get us to level 1, but falling a bit shy of pre-COVID levels, which were around 15%. The graduation and completion index calculated at 94.66 this year, and this is our highest since 2018, and it was 95.15, so only 0.5% off of our highest, and that was the highest since the GCI has been calculated. So very high on that.
Wonderful.
And our NCHS dropout rate is 3.45%, and this is lower. This is one we want to be lower than pre-COVID levels. And this is quite impressive because we are working with smaller cohorts going through, so the magnitude of a single dropout is exponentially greater than it has been with a much larger cohort. Nelson Middle School. I like this slide because there's a lot of changes in color there to the greens. All right, Nelson Middle School will be accredited for 24-25 and has made a tremendous improvement relative to the 23-24 school accreditation outcomes. Last year's accreditation, Nelson Middle was at level 2 in academic achievement for English and level 3 for English gap groups, specifically level 2 for white students, level 3 at students with disabilities, level 3 for black students, and level 3 for economically disadvantaged students. An almost 10% increase in the overall English combined rate, combined with gap group increases of 10% for white students, 16% for black students, 22% for students with disabilities, and 10% for economically disadvantaged, pulled Nelson Middle up to level 1 in overall English performance. And we only have a level 2 in English gap groups, with the groups, students with disability being the only one falling below the level 1 threshold. So knocked it out of the park in that capacity. Additional highlights. Again, we have significantly increased English outcomes from last year with an increase in the overall pass rate of almost 10%. This is also an increase of almost 4% from pre-COVID outcomes. Nelson Middle has also significantly increased math outcomes at 86.2% this year from last year with an increase in the overall pass rate of 8%. This is only about 5% below pre-COVID outcomes that were posted in 2019. Science outcomes, though at level 1 at 70.6%, meet the state benchmark. They do fall below both last year and pre-COVID outcomes by about 5%. Chronic absenteeism dropped dramatically, overall 11% reduction, and falls at 15.14% this year. Just a little bit shy of pre-COVID outcomes, but again, a tremendous improvement following the COVID epidemic. Rockfish River will be fully accredited for 24-25. Last year, Rockfish was level 1 for all indicators except for chronic absenteeism, which fell at a level 2. This year, Rockfish will be at a level 1 in all indicators, in addition to being at a level 1 in all gap groups for both English and math. English outcomes at approximately 86% were very consistent with last year's results and slightly higher than pre-COVID results with an increase in 3.5%. Math outcomes at 91.1% were slightly lower than last year's by only about 3%. Chronic absenteeism, calculated at 7.5%, dropped dramatically by over a 10% reduction, but still fall just a hair shy of pre-COVID results, around 5%. And lastly, but not least, Tye River will also be fully accredited for 24-25. Last year, Tye was level 1 for all indicators except for academic gap groups in English as a result of level 2 for Black students and students with disabilities. And they were also level 2 for chronic absenteeism. Level 3 for chronic absenteeism. This year, Tye River is a level 1 in all indicators, in addition to being at a level 1 in all but one gap group in the math and English, which would be Black students in math and level 2 for students with disabilities in English. But again, since we're only one gap group, that gets us the overall gap group at level 1. Again, some highlights. English outcomes at 78% were fairly consistent with last year's results and slightly higher than pre-COVID results with an increase of about 2%. Math outcomes at 85.5% were slightly lower than last year's and slightly lower than pre-COVID with about a 3% reduction. Chronic absenteeism dropped dramatically by 13% to a final calculation of 12%, and pre-COVID results were about 10%. So we find ourselves very close to where we were before COVID, if not better in most cases. So that being said, and I started this saying this is the 5th year since I've given this, and it's probably the last time I give this. And it's not because I'm going anywhere, it's because on August 26th, the state board voted on a new accreditation metric. So we're going to be doing things a little bit different, or calculating outcomes a little bit differently next year. So this is new. There's not a lot of information out there. I'll answer the questions the best I can, but I wanted to get the conversation started because this is the conversation we're going to start having with our leadership teams and our instructional teams. So, quick breakdown. Elementary and middle school will be measured in 3 categories: mastery, growth, and readiness. Mastery will be related to the SOL pass rate in reading, math, and science, the outcomes of VAP assessments, and EL progress, our English language progress as measured by the WIDA test. It will no longer include the combined pass rate. Growth will be a separate measure on its own. Growth will be measured a little bit differently. As I said, currently growth is SOL test to SOL test, spring to spring measure. Growth will now be measured by a statistical program called VVAS. And it will only be included for grades 4 through 8th. So we will not have 3rd grade growth to be calculated through VVAS this year. Readiness will include chronic absenteeism and the inclusion of a 5C performance task, which is to be field tested this spring. A lot more information on that to come, hopefully. And additionally, at the middle school level, advanced coursework will be included in the readiness indicator. And this is defined as coursework or courses that students complete that earn them a high school credit. For this school year, it will be math only, and history and science will be included in future school years. High school, very similar, just take out growth and add graduation. Again, mastery is going to be outcomes of SOL in the same areas: reading, math, science, VAP, and EL. Readiness is going to look a little different than middle school and elementary. Chronic absenteeism will be in there. We will have the 6-year extended graduation rate, and this will look very similar to our current 4-year graduation composite index. It's going to have the same metrics because it includes students who get an applied studies diploma, students who get finished with the ISEP or GED. And then what will replace the CCCRI index, the College Career and Civics Readiness Index, is now going to be called the 3E framework, and it will deal with enrollment, meaning advanced coursework, employment, being CTE completers with credential exams, and enlistment, students who take the ASVAB test. And lastly, graduation. The graduation, 15% there, will be related to the Federal Graduation Indicator. This is a 4-year cohort calculation that will only account for students earning a standard and advanced diploma. It does not include the applied studies. That will be in the readiness component. Altogether, we will no longer have levels, but we will have performance categories: distinguished, on track, off track, and those that need intensive supports. So I do not have the data crunched yet because this is so new, but hopefully by the end of the month, we will have preliminary data based on this year's accreditations, how we would fall into future accreditation rankings. So, and I will present that to you shortly, probably by email at the next board meeting. All right. Thank you for your time.
Any questions?
Thank you. I have a lot of questions, but I'm just gonna hit you up later.
Not a
Plus,
problem.
I owe you one.
I think we should acknowledge, though, just the incredible work that's
I
been
swear.
done at all levels, whether it's instruction, whether it's administration, whether it's the teachers on the ground. That's to be celebrated.
Yeah, I know, I mean,
And
glowing.
Yeah, exactly.
who knew when you reduce the absenteeism rate, the scores go up? Amazing. When the kids are in school, they
Who'd have
learn.
thought?
That's fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's one of the things I hope we do talk about, is that I know that was a little bit painful for some families, when we really began to enforce the chronic absenteeism, and the fact that we are seeing these positive outcomes that are tied to student growth and student achievement. Good job. Well done, everybody.
Excellent, yes. All right. Update on crisis plans 2024-2025 with Dr. Hess.
Just want to note that every year we're required to review our crisis plans. We have done so. So we work pretty closely as a division, but also with our schools to make sure that our plans are set. It does, like most things, require constant review, and sometimes they can change once you kind of recognize some patterns or things that take place. But I appreciate the hard work that goes into making sure that we're aware. I know, was it earlier this week? I think we had the lockdown drills. Was it Monday or Tuesday? We had lockdown drills to be able to practice those things that we don't like to talk about, but are so essential to the safety, is being able to practice, because that's what you revert back to in times of crisis. So appreciate the work, doing our fire drills, doing our lockdown drills, doing all those things to make sure that we're ready. So we have reviewed those and we are moving forward.
Questions? Comments? Okay. Now we're at the VSBA policy updates for August 2024, the first reading with Dr. Hefner.
There haven't been many drastic changes as you go through and you read these. Some of them we had already made their edits, verbiage or grammar. We've already made those changes into our policies prior to that. So really professional licensure, a lot of the codes changed with some things, and just updating whether it's a local provisional or a CTE. So those are some of the changes for GC. IAA, notification of learning objectives, we already do, we've done. We start to see through some of these changes, really acknowledging the the role of military families in divisions and making sure that schools are flexible in working with these families, particularly when it reflects options that are available to school divisions. So not a whole lot of updates and not particularly controversial at all either. Yep.
Question? Okay, now we have the activity fund audit ending 6/30/2024 with Ms. Shannon Irvin.
The Code of Virginia requires all school divisions to have the activity funds of their schools audited every summer. So our audit was conducted in July, and I will note on page 7, the most important wording there is that they expressed an unmodified opinion on the financial statements that were presented. So they had no material findings, which was good news. On page 13 of the report, I would like to point out a couple things. School-wide or system-wide recommendations. There were no management letter recommendations for the division as a whole, meaning that our internal controls that we have in place are working as they were supposed to, and that there were no recommendations to change those. Kudos to the bookkeepers at both Rockfish and Tie River. There were no management letter recommendations for either of those schools. Experience matters. Those bookkeepers have been with us a very long time, and they do an excellent job. So, and I'd also like to give kudos to our other two bookkeepers, because the findings that were noted on page 13 were, in my view, minor and inconsequential. The one at the middle school is that they recommended that we follow up on checks that were written that had not been cashed. They weren't that old. A previous auditor would not have had that finding, but the auditor that we had this year wanted us to follow up with anything that was over 2 months old. So we have some folks that are just late in cashing checks, but we have a new bookkeeper there, and she has been phenomenal of picking up, and to only have that one finding, kudos to her. Findings at the high school, I will take part of the responsibility for, because I was out for a significant amount of time last year and didn't follow back around. The recommendation that we had last year was that we invest parts of our monies in a money market fund to generate interest, and we've already met on that for this year, and so that should not be a finding next year. The other recommendation revolved around receipts from concessions and ticket sales, to have more than one person count the money, more than one person sign for the deposit. So we'll make that change, again, which is a different recommendation than what we've had in the past. So those things are duly noted, and we're making the right steps to make sure that they're not reported next year. So kudos to our bookkeepers. So thank you.
Are these new auditors?
Different auditors, same firm.
Oh. Yeah,
Yep.
thank you very much.
Okay. I think the next one's me too.
Yep.
All right. So next is revisions to the 2024-2025 budget recommendation. Ms. Shannon Irvin.
Yes. Last year, when we were contemplating giving a raise to staff, to give a 3% raise was approximately $675,000, and we didn't have a mechanism to be able to do that. As the new year has evolved, the Board of Supervisors has agreed to appropriate funds to the division for monies that we received last year from the Department of Education for the All in Virginia plan. So that was $379,582. That I had the expense built into the budget because we knew we had to implement the plan. The state, I'm assuming due to their cash flow They upfronted the money to us, which in turn goes back to the county on June 30th of each year because our money doesn't carry over from year to year. So anyway, that has been reappropriated. The expense had already been accounted for in our budget, so that freed up monies that we could distribute in a different way. In addition, in June, we were able to pay off debt service for energy improvements that we made 15 years ago, which freed up $192,182. In addition, we still have 4 custodial positions that we've not been able to fill. So we've got July and August salaries and benefits for those positions. We have a vacancy in an assistant principal at the high school for at least 1 month. We have substitutes in some teaching positions that are paid less salary and benefits than a fully licensed teacher. So harvesting all of those savings, we would like to present a proposal to modify our budget for the coming year. The budget would total $32,119,224, would incorporate the $610,000 that the county gave us in addition, and we would have $120,776 from state, federal, and other sources. What we would like the board to consider is offering differentiated salary increases to staff, depending on the length of service and the step on the scale that employees find themselves on. We've looked to see what our market and how we compete with our neighbors in terms of different positions, and find that we do really well at parts of our scale and not so well at other parts of the scale. So we would like to request salary increases from 0% up to 5%, depending on where the person would be on the scale for our teacher group. We would also like to differentiate the support staff scale and the bus driver scale, that all employees would get at least 3%. Those at the end, or the middle and end of the scale would get 4 or 5%. So basically 1/3 of the scale would get 3, 1/3 would be 4, and 1/3 would be 5. A couple of years ago now, we made some significant increases to the beginning of our scale, but we were not able to put those same increases throughout the scale. So this would be bringing those experienced folks back closer to what market would bear. For the administrators, we just put a flat 3%, in keeping with what the governor's recommendations were for the year. So the proposal that you have in front of you, there would accomplish all of those things. And we still have some decisions to make, or some wiggle room, depending on what our hiring situation is as we move forward. But this would, being able to do this proposal takes everything that I mentioned up until the end of August. So.
Very good. And we'll have that in our items for action vote.
Yep.
In just 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You go.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I wondered if anybody else jumped right into doing the job. Sitting next to you.
Are there any questions about before we get to the items for action?
Nope.
Nope. Good. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, next we're down to items for action. The first is a field trip request from the Nelson County High School FFA to take a field trip to Denver, Colorado. Details are in there. If there's any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll need a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the NCHS FFA trip to Denver, Colorado.
I'll second it.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item B is a field trip request from the NCHS drama program to go to New York City. And again, there's discussion. If not discussion, then we'll need a motion to pass.
I'll make a motion to approve the field trip request for NCHS Advanced Drama to New York City.
I will second that.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have an item for action seeking approval of the for the cafeteria tables from Mr. Walker to be put in surplus sales.
I move that we put the high school cafeteria tables that Mr. Walker designated to surplus.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we have a request for approval to sell surplus items from Mr. Mike Park.
I move that we approve the list of surplus items from Mr. Cargill.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a similar request from Mr. Les Campbell for surplus items from maintenance. List is attached.
I move that we approve the list of surplus items from Les Campbell.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item F, approval of the revisions to the 2024-2025 budget recommendations that we just heard from Ms. Irvin on. Any discussion on that? All right, I'll need a motion.
I move that we approve the suggested revisions to the 24-25 budget as recommended by the administration.
Motion and a second.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And finally, we'll need a motion to go into closed session.
Do we have all three, or just the first two? The personnel and legal, or just personnel?
First.
Just the first one. I move that the board go into closed session to discuss and consider the personnel report and other confidential personnel matters as authorized by Virginia Code 2.2.
First and third.
First and third.
Okay, okay. Virginia Code 2.23711A1 for purposes of discussion or consideration of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining or resignation of specific public body, officers, appointees, or employees of any public body. I also move that we go into closed session to discuss legal matters with possible conversations with counsel as authorized by section 2.23711A8 of the Code of Virginia regarding a specific legal matter or matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. I move that the board go into closed session to discuss and consider student matters as authorized by section 2.2-3711A2 of the Code of Virginia for discussion or consideration of disciplinary matters that would involve the disclosure of information contained in scholastic records concerning students.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor going into closed session?
Aye.
Aye. We're in closed session.